afternoon, everybody. What's happening, everybody, on this Wednesday, October 15th, 2025? My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a big show for you guys today. President Trump and Kash Patel are awaiting a press conference any minute now. It's scheduled at 3 p.m. Eastern, so we will bring that to you live when it begins. Keep it locked in here for all of the updates on that. Also, more breaking news as we come in. Obviously, there's a giant story in the news right now that I'm definitely not going to talk about, but let's move on. California declares a state of emergency over ICE operations. Democrats continue to look in awful shape moving into the midterms. Rutgers University in New Jersey has removed the Turning Point USA chapter after they decided to call out an Antifa professor. But Kevin, Antifa doesn't exist. Really, this guy quite literally wrote the handbook. We're going to bring you all of that information, and something very interesting is happening to X, which I find to be great. Which is actually great news. And if we have time at the end of the show today, we're going to laugh because Senator Kennedy is once again the funniest person anywhere in the Senate. We're also going to talk about a new Senate candidate jumping in Maine who is just under the age of 1 million. 1 million years old. That's right. That's no hyperbole. She was actually born before Jesus. That's true. So, guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We are rocking. We are rolling. Before we get started today, guys, do me a favor and head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this program and everything we've got going on over here. Boom. There it is. There's all the good stuff right there, guys. Check it all out today. Pick up your 250 hat, your I voted for this t-shirt. Oh, yeah, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Or if you're like me and you can't live without your coffee, you can get your America Runs on Trump shirt, which eerily looks like another company's logo, but definitely isn't if you are from the, the Copyright Infringement Office. So, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com and use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. Also, quick programming note, I will not be here tomorrow. I will be, two of my friends will be guest hosting. Allie and Michelle, you guys are going to love them. Check them out tomorrow at 3 p.m. I have a travel day because I'm going to Nashville to speak at the Williamson County Turning Point Chapter's memorial for Charlie Kirk. Super excited about that. I get to see my buddy Sean again. All good stuff. Very good. So make sure you guys keep it tuned in tomorrow. Make sure you guys keep it locked in tomorrow. We're getting some quick breaking news right now. Senate Democrats have just yet again blocked the government from reopening for a 9th time. So the Schumer shutdown continues. The Schumer shutdown continues for yet another day as Democrats have blocked the reopening of the federal government yet again. And despite all of their blustering, despite all of that, they continue to try to blame Republicans, even though we are voting to open the government and they are voting to keep it closed. You know, that doesn't really make a whole hell of a lot of sense. And Americans are starting to wake up to this. Particularly, we went over it on yesterday's show, with the redistricting fight that is going to happen in 2026. And I'm excited about it. I'm jacked up about it. And Democrats not only are looking in bad shape for the redistricting, but their overall generic ballot numbers, not great. Here's Harry Enton.
Okay, so, if you go back 6 months ago, you go back to April, Kate Baldwin, what were we looking at? Well, we were looking at the Democrats with a very clear shot of taking control of the U.S. House of Representatives, according to the Kalshi prediction market odds. We saw them at an 83% chance. But those odds have gone plummeting down. Now we're talking about just a 63% chance, while the GOP's chances up like a rocket, up like gold, up from 17% to now a 37% chance. So we'll look like a pretty clear, likely Democratic win in the House come next year has become much closer to a toss-up at this point, although still slightly leaning Democratic.
What's changed? What are you seeing?
Okay, what has changed? Well, why don't we just take a look at the national picture first? Take a look at voters and how they're feeling about things. And we can take a look at the generic congressional ballot. And I want to take a look and compare it to 2017, 2018, right? Because that's sort of the baseline. That was, of course, the first Trump term. That was where Democrats were sort of keeping pace. You go back to April, look at the generic congressional ballot. What you see? You see +3 Democrats in 2025 in April. You see +3 Democrats back in April of 2017. Now jump over to this side of the screen. What happens? Well, the Democrats are no longer keeping pace with the pace that they were setting back in 2017, 2018. You look back in 2017, you saw that the Democrats had leaped up to an 8-point advantage. I remember covering this. I remember a lot of folks, including myself, saying, you know what, Republicans look pretty decent right now in terms of the fact that they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the presidency, but things were likely going to flip. And I was looking for the same signs this year. The bottom line is it hasn't happened, Kate Baldwin. It hasn't happened. Democrats have stayed basically steady. They have fallen off the pace. Democrats were way out ahead back in 2017 on the generic congressional ballot. And now we're basically looking at Democrats ahead. But again, they are so far in back of the pace that they set back there. And so I think what a lot of folks are seeing, folks like myself, are saying, wait a minute, given what we might be seeing in redistricting, is this +3 going to be enough, Kate Baldwin?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. One change from that cycle is also this mid-decade redistricting effort that we've been covering so much. You add that in, and what do you get?
Okay, so we add that, and we take a look at the national picture, but then we, of course, taking a look at the state legislators, right? They are potentially changing things, and there are two things that are going on here. First off, net mid-decade redistricting gains. If both sides max out at this point, there are more Republican gains possible than Democratic gains. Yes, the Democrats might try to counter a Texas and a California, but you go along in the different states, and basically Democrats run out of room where Republicans are able to gain and gain and gain. If both sides max out, we're probably looking at a GOP gain of +7 House seats. That doesn't even take into account the potential gutting of the VRA that is right now going to be in front of the Supreme Court. If you add that in, you could be looking.
The Voting Rights Act.
What? Yes, exactly right. The Voting Rights Act. If you add that in, then you could be looking about adding 10, 12, 15, 17 on top of this 7 seats. So I think a lot of folks like myself are looking at this. We're seeing, hey, wait a minute. Those national polls are Democrats are not gaining the way that we expected. Then you add in the fact that the state legislators are adding potentially more GOP seats like they've already done down in Texas, like they've done in Missouri. And then you add in the potential gutting of the VRA. And all of a sudden, it becomes much more difficult for Democrats to gain, especially given that they are not keeping up with their 2017, 2018 pace.
And as you said, that also makes it difficult to compare it to past examples in history because this is such a different new landscape that we're looking at.
It's a different new landscape, and we're not quite sure how much Democrats will have to be ahead in the National House vote in order to gain control.
All right. Thank you, Harry.
Democrats are in very serious trouble. And you heard Harry Enten say it there at the very end. Now, he mentioned the Voting Rights Act. He didn't tell you exactly what all was happening. Right now in the Supreme Court, Louisiana is suing over racially biased congressional district maps. Well, what the hell does that mean? Normally, congressional districts are apportioned based on population. Wherever it is you may live, roughly 750,000 people are represented in each congressional district. Well, right now, the Supreme Court, literally at this moment, the Supreme Court has signaled it may limit that key provision of the Voting Rights Act. And this makes perfect sense to me because it actually gets rid of race as a factor, which I kind of thought was the goal. The Supreme Court conservative majority on Wednesday appeared poised to significantly weaken the Voting Rights Act provision that prohibits states from diluting the power of minority voters, which is really an odd way to say it, Fox News. The pivotal case that could reshape elections and redistricting battles in Republican-led states ahead of the midterms. The case, Louisiana versus Calise, was first argued in March and centers on whether Louisiana's 2024 congressional map, which added a second majority black district, amounts to unconstitutional gerrymandering. You see, because what the Voting Rights Act did was, it said you couldn't make exclusively white congressional district maps. Well, since it said that, and not you couldn't make them based on race, you had exclusively black districts, which is racist. This shouldn't be hard for most people to figure out. The outcome could determine how states widely apply the Voting Rights Act in future redistricting plans. Justices ordered both sides to return to court for a second hearing to revisit the arguments in the case centered around Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and asked them to submit briefs on whether Louisiana's creation of a second majority black congressional district under the Voting Rights Act violates the 14th and 15th Amendment to the Constitution. Brett Kavanaugh and other conservative justices appear to be open to the idea that Congress, in passing the 1965 law, may have intended a sort of sunset period for Section 2, allowing it to weaken over time. Yes, that would make total sense. The possibility was invoked by Kavanaugh several times during Wednesday's argument as he pressed lawyers for the state of Louisiana and the NAACP more specifically. The court's ruling could carry major implications for future elections, with critics warning that siding with the state could further erode protections for minority voters under the Voting Rights Act. Janae Nelson, a lawyer for the NAACP arguing on behalf of black voters, argued on Wednesday that siding with Louisiana's request to reverse the map would be a staggering reversal in precedent. I hate when they do that. I absolutely hate when lawyers arguing before the Supreme Court say that something must stand because of precedent. They do it on both sides. I hate to break this to everybody. The Constitution is pliable. Some things were around for a really long time. And then we realized, oh, that's not good. Let's get rid of that. You know. Like slavery. We matured as a society and realized that's something we probably shouldn't do. Or, for example, how about the sterilization of the mentally ill? Oklahoma v. Skinner. That stood for 18 years until somebody was like, no, probably not the best idea in the world. Grutter v. Bollinger. That stood for about 25 years, where racial quotas could be used as an asset in college admissions. As a matter of fact, when the Supreme Court passed that law, or not passed the law, when they decided that case, they even said there was a sunset clause in it, hoping that we would get to a time when we didn't need to do that. Now, I'll be honest with you, Sandra Day O'Connor was one of the people who spoke on this at the time. I don't think we needed it in the first place, because it turns out if you use race as a positive, that means you're using race as a negative for another person. If there's two people, one's white and one's black, and they have the same qualifications, and you use race as a positive, that means you're using race as a negative for the other person. It's a zero-sum game. Harvard can only let in X amount of students every year. And if you start using race as a positive, like we did with Chief Hiawatha, then you're going to get people manipulating the system. Not to mention, they do it because they say they want diversity. However, I don't think that a kid who grew up in a single-parent household in Harlem is exactly the same as LeBron James's kid. But, you know, what the hell do I know? I'm just speaking in reality here. Every justice in Louisiana had been elected through the Voting Rights Act Opportunity District, and nearly all legislative representatives have been elected in those same districts. So Louisiana alone is an example of how important Section 2 is, they argued. Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett signaled skepticism about keeping Section 2 of the VRA in place as is. They pressed Nelson on whether there should be a time duration limited on the intentional use of race in order to draw voting districts under the law, prompting Ketanji Brown Jackson to jump in to clarify, of course, since the VRA is derived from the 15th Amendment, it does not have a time limit. But the Solicitor General of Louisiana, arguing for the state, argued to the Supreme Court to prohibit the use of race as a factor at all, which would make sense. Which would make perfect sense. Getting us past, I think it was, I forgot who it was that said it. Maybe it was Thomas. Let me see real quick. Who was it that said this? I forgot who said it, but the very famous line is that if you want to stop making everything about race, then stop making everything about race. A very simple but quite prophetic line, if you ask me. I don't care about people's race. I know good people that are white and good people that are black and assholes that are white and assholes that are black. I don't care. Not even in the slightest. But organizations like the NAACP, people like Al Sharpton, they need race to continue to play a factor in the world, because if race no longer plays a factor in the world, we don't need them anymore. It's not about doing what's right, it's about survival. And that's why the NAACP is throwing every lawyer they can at this case. Louisiana Attorney General asked the Supreme Court in August to invalidate the 2024 map and about face from its earlier position, and argued that the justices to rule more broadly that race-based redistricting is unconstitutional. The Attorney General said that the 14th Amendment commands that the government may never use race as a stereotype or a negative. Yet race-based redistricting rests on stereotype. That all minorities, by virtue of their membership in a racial class, think alike and therefore share the same interests and voting preferences. Yeah, a group of black voters and civil rights groups, meanwhile, argued the court to leave in place the newer map, which comports with the 14th and 15th Amendment, which I would say it absolutely does not comport with the 14th Amendment. However, here we sit. Here we sit, and we will see where they rest on this. We will see where they fall on this line. That decision should be coming out relatively soon. Speaking of dumb judges who do very dumb things, let's talk about everybody's favorite Doge employee, Big Balls. You all remember Big Balls? Well, Big Balls, everyone's favorite Doge employee, got jumped a couple of weeks ago in Washington, D.C. And you're never going to believe what happened. You're never going to believe what happened. Well, the judge in the case sentenced the teens who attacked Big Balls to probation, with the goal of being rehabilitation and not punishment. That's right. The teen who attacked the former Doge employee on August 3rd have been sentenced to only probation. This is despite President Trump's administration's best efforts to clean up not only the streets of Washington, D.C., but also to deal with the problematic justice system in the district. The two teens were able to avoid jail time after pleading guilty to simple assault. It's simple assault. It's not like big deal assault. It's just like little assault. You know, you just kind of beat the shit out of somebody. You didn't really beat the shit out of them. The two teens, a boy and a girl, were sentenced to probation only. The boy faces 12 months of probation, while the girl only faces 9. Hey, where are the feminists now? Where's the equality now? I don't know. Not a lot of feminists on a sinking cruise ship. Women and children first. No, no, no. We want gender equity. I didn't see many of them on the Titanic. The girl's attorney said that I have seen positive change in just the time I have known her. The boy's lawyer indicated that the boy took part in during the attack The boy's lawyer indicated that what the boy took part in during the attack is behind him. Right, so maybe we should have waited for someone to kill this kid. Maybe we should have waited for that. Here's Big Balls.
I was hanging out with a group of my friends late at night, and at about 3 a.m., we were wrapping up, and I was walking one of my friends back to her car. And as we're walking to the car, there's a group of 10 guys right across the street. And as we get to the car and she begins to fumble for the keys, they start shouting at us. And really quickly, I knew something was really off about the situation. So she unlocks the car. I rush her into the driver's seat. She's able to close the door behind her and lock the doors. And, you know, right as I turn around, they run up on me, and they're just a few feet away. And they slam me against the car. They start throwing a bunch of punches. I keep my hands up. I'm just like, all right, I'm getting a lot of punches here. I'm just trying to protect my head the best way that I can. And, you know, luckily the whole thing didn't last too long. The police showed up pretty quickly. So I was very fortunate. I only came out with a broken nose and a concussion. It could have been a lot worse.
Oh my God. All right. So they were wailing on you. Did they get you down on the ground?
No. I knew that if I got down on the ground, it'd get way worse. So I was like, all right, no matter what, I just have to stay on my feet.
All right. So stay on your feet. You protect the head because you know what? Big Balls also has big brains. And that's very important. And you saved this lady friend of yours. You kind of saved more than her car. You might have saved her life.
Yeah, it was a really bad situation. And, the carjacking didn't make a lot of sense because it was like the cheapest car on the block. So it felt like there might have been something else going on there.
Okay. Well, you're a brave guy and you're a lucky guy, and we're glad you're okay.
Big balls. Which is still the funniest part about the entire Doge situation, if I'm being totally honest with you. Still absolutely the by far the funniest part. Guys, we're going to keep rocking and rolling here. Once again, we are awaiting a press conference with Kash Patel and Donald Trump that was scheduled for 3 p.m. However, Donald Trump is late. He is late. What can you do? What can you do? We will bring it to you live when it happens. Before we get to that, here's Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Well, it's that time of year again, isn't it? My favorite time of year. Fall. Oh, I love the leaves. I love the autumn smell. I love the pumpkins. I love it all. Right before the snow flies. But what I don't love that comes with the cold weather and the fall weather is the flu, are the sniffles, the cold. All those common cold sniffles that you get every year. And if you have kids in the house, little kids going to and fro school, and they're coming back and they're touching everything and they're bringing the bacteria and all those viruses home from school, you don't want anything to do with that. You want to be proactive rather than reactive. That's why we're going to talk about propolis today. You know what propolis is? Well, ladies and gentlemen, propolis is what works as a barrier to keep the beehive absolutely safe. And what am I talking about? Well, Beekeepers Naturals. Now, my wife really turned me on to this. This is an endorsement of my wife and then myself as well. Beekeepers Naturals, folks, that is exactly what this is. This is a proactive rather than a reactive, all natural, all clean alternative to big food and big pharma. You've got your Beekeepers vitamin C packs, which are perfect for on the go, right? You've got your Beekeepers Propolis nasal spray. A few shots up the nose, clears out your nostrils, cleans any congestion that you have, and it's all natural, and it's going to work as a proactive barrier to any of that unwanted bacteria getting in. How about the Beekeepers All Natural Propolis Immune Throat Spray? 3 or 4 pumps of that a day, and anything that you're breathing in is going to be either repelled or killed right away. That's the amazing thing about propolis, and that is the amazing thing about Beekeepers Naturals. And I got a 20% discount for you. What's better than that? 20% discount. Look, you can even get the throat soothing pops and the kids prebiotic fiber pops along with the throat spray, along with the nasal spray, along with the vitamin C packs. Folks, they've got it all, and it's an all-natural, clean, beautiful option for you to have in order to, get away from the big food, get away from the big pharma, and go more natural, especially with a 20% discount. How can you not go to Beekeepers Naturals today /LFA and get your 20% discount? Clean out your medicine cabinet today with beekeepers.com /LFA. And now back to the show.
So, guys, as we await the press conference with Kash Patel and President Trump, which should be coming up any minute now, we'll see. Let's talk about the great state of Maine, known for its lobsters and, the location of every Stephen King book. So, Maine has got quite a fight on its hands here. You got Susan Collins, the woman who can't get through a sentence, who votes against President Trump every single time running for re-election. But on the Democratic side, you've got a very interesting little nugget here happening. You have a young man, younger guy, I think he's about 40. He's an oyster fisherman. Much more of a populist running on the Democratic line. Okay. More of a Fetterman type person. And that concerns Senate Democrats. You can't have too many John Fettermans in there. You can't do that. 1 is okay, maybe 2. You can't start having 3 or 4. So Chuck Schumer knows what to do. He knows what to do. Chuck Schumer has recruited Governor Janet Mills to run for that Senate seat. Now, many of you are asking, Kevin, who the hell cares about the Maine Senate seat? And I'm going to tell you why you should care. Because your elected representatives do not know when to give it up. Because for them, they have a right to taxpayer-funded jobs. They have a right to it. Why am I saying that? Well, Janet Mills, and look, by all accounts, a Democrat will probably win that seat. By all accounts, a Democrat may win that seat. Janet Mills is 78 years old. If she wins in 2026, she will be sworn in at the age of 79, which will make her the youngest freshman senator ever. But she will also be the 12th oldest current senator. You got that right? She'll be the the oldest person ever to be sworn into the Senate for the first time. But it will still make her the 12th oldest member in the United States Senate. This is some of the funniest stuff I have ever seen. You got Chuck Grassley, who's 92. You got Bernie, who's 84. You got Mitch, who's 83. You got Jim Risch of Idaho. Who the hell is that? He's 82. You got Angus King, he's 81. You got Dick Durbin, he's 80. You got Richard Blumenthal, Dick Blumenthal, who lied about that time he went to Vietnam. He's 79. Ed Markey of Massachusetts, he's 79. Janine Shaheen, she's 78. Peter Welch, he is 78. Mazie Hirono, that's the woman who can't stop talking about people's sex lives, from Hawaii, she's 77. And it keeps going on. Here we go. Let's count this. Let's play a little game here. And this isn't a cross-party line thing. Let's play a little game here. Members of the Senate over the age of 70. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. 35% of the Senate has been getting Social Security for more than 8 years. Are you kidding me? And we wonder why we can't get anything done? These people can't hold their bowels. Never mind, hold a Senate committee hearing. You wonder why nothing ever gets done in this country? Now, the Democrat who may win in Maine, this younger guy, I forgot what his name is. He's probably some kind of radical, and I'm not going to like him. But at least, he was born after A-Tracks. And I want to be clear, this is not necessarily an age thing, because in just a minute, I'm going to show you the funniest person in the Senate. And, of course, that would be Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana, who is one of those 35. How old is that man? Where is old John Kennedy? He's 73. Now, he's funny as hell. And there are some people, like Chuck Grassley, who are 92, who's still sharp as a whip. It's not a matter of age. It's a matter of ability. You got Mitch McConnell, who's basically dead, who's a year younger than Bernie Sanders, who, look, is still out there campaigning. He's still out there campaigning at his No Oligarchy tour, or whatever the hell that is. Of course, he's doing it at stadiums owned by billionaires, which is not really the point. But something's got to change. If you're over the age of 80, you need to get out of politics. You just do. You just do. And this is a bipartisan issue. I want to be clear. This is not just a Democrat thing. I'm just highlighting the hilarity behind it. They are so afraid of a 40-year-old oyster fisherman from getting into the Senate that Chuck Schumer has decided to nominate a woman who will be the oldest senator ever if she is elected. But still somehow the 12th oldest senator currently serving. These people are jokes. These people are absolute jokes. Guys, we were awaiting a President Trump press conference, which looks like it's going to be starting any minute now before we get to that Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Lock in some of those interest rates and support a bank that's going to support your values, your liberty, your privacy, and your security. Go to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So I mentioned the funniest man in the Senate just a minute ago, Senator John Kennedy. Somebody put together a little highlight reel of him being on the Ruthless podcast with former Senate staffers. And while we await President Trump's press conference, which I'm sure will be funny as hell too, why don't we enjoy Senator Kennedy for a minute?
How can I put this? I think that the Congresswoman is single-handedly trying to put an end to dumb blonde jokes. And our attitude is, you've heard me say it before, our secret plan is Operation Let Her Speak. And Chuck, just he sees what we see.
Yeah.
But he can't seem to figure out how to defeat it.
Yeah.
Now, and look, don't misunderstand me. I like Chuck. He's a friend, but he could start if he'd stop all the spastic arm movements. He goes, I believe strongly in this. And you go, Chuck, just loosen up, man. The real point from 35,000 feet is Obamacare exchanges are broken.
Yeah.
I mean, they were supposed to make insurance cheaper and more accessible. It's done neither.
Yeah.
And it's so bad that people will not buy the exchanges unless the federal government pays them to.
Yeah.
It was just like electric cars. I never could understand. They said electric cars are swell. And I'd always think, well, electric cars are so swell, how come you have to pay people to buy them? and Obamacare is the same way. It sucks so much that people say, we will not buy it unless you give us the money.
Well, look, you're a smart guy. You've got more degrees than a thermometer.
It's a good one, Holmes.
But I appreciate that coming from you. I really appreciate that. You're somewhat of an artist when it comes to language, linguistics.
I don't get nearly enough credit for things I don't say.
Yeah. Regional dialects or something that is that core competency.
That means that my voice scares small children.
You're going to have a reaction to your colleague Sheldon Whitehouse. We talked about it on the program earlier this week. You gotta hear. Leverage is a big thing. Let's hear from Sheldon the way he sort of articulates this.
But we'd rather negotiate with you after you've given away your leverage. Do it in a couple of days or a couple of weeks when we've given up our negotiating leverage. Your leverage.
That sounds a lot like cleavage. Leverage? Sheldon. I love Sheldon. It's a nice suit. I remember when it was in. Back in 1978. Now, I got to speak to the boy. You just can't take him anywhere. Leverage.
When big banks decide who gets access.
Remember when I said that everyone over the age of 70 had to leave the Senate? Except for him. He can stay. He can stay. I can watch that man all day. He is one of the funniest. Look, I've met a lot of members of Congress and people in the Senate and whatnot. He's the one person that I haven't met that I absolutely need to. He is one of the funniest people on planet Earth. Once again, we are awaiting President Trump speaking with Kash Patel on who the hell knows what. They just start these press conferences 40 minutes late, and then we see where the hell we go from here. But let's dive into some more of the breaking news, because for my Californians out there, you're in serious trouble. You're in serious trouble. Did you know that there is a state of emergency happening right now in California? Did you know that? They've declared a state of emergency in Los Angeles County. Is it wildfires? No. Is it mass rioters like back in '92? No. Now, leaders in California and Los Angeles have declared a local state of emergency on Tuesday with the news of the proclamation that has been put forth by the LA County Supervisor. It's in response to ICE scooping up illegal immigrants. They declared a state of emergency. Like what you do if there's a flood. Or, I guess there can be a flood of ice. A state of emergency. And I guess, on some level, it is a state of emergency. I mean, shit, they're going to deport all their voters soon. The measure was said to be in response to the ICE enforcement raids all over LA County, which are the home to nearly 10 million illegal immigrants. 10 million illegal immigrants in LA County. Yeah, that sounds like it could be a bit of an issue. That could be a state of emergency. The proclamation notice, dated October 9th, said that it will remain in effect until terminated by the Board of Electors, until the Board of Supervisors. The county supervisors voted 4-1 in favor of the emergency proclamation to mobilize county resources and support affected communities despite potential legal challenges from the federal government. I want to be clear, guys. I don't use this phrase. Oh, hold on. We've got, here's the boss.
So nice. We're getting great compliments, and you see outside how that's come out. It's been great. We make a lot of improvements to the White House, and we're doing that. One of the things you should be looking at is the Palm Court, because that's been totally redone. So we like to preserve and make better the White House, and that's really what's happened, and we're getting tremendous reviews, and we appreciate it. But we're here for a different reason. It's called Operation Summer Heat, which is an appropriate term in light of what we're doing. And early yesterday morning, I returned from the Middle East, where we celebrated a historic agreement to end years of suffering and conflict. Amazing. Every country came together. I mean, even the enemies came out and totally endorsed it. Everybody. I've never seen anything like it. Nobody's seen anything like it. And just as we are forging peace and stability abroad, we're also restoring peace and safety and stability at home. And you see that in Washington, D.C., maybe better than any place, because we got there, and within 12 days it was very good. And within 30 days, it's been as safe as any city in the country. It's been great. Took out 1,700 people, got them out. These are career criminals in many cases, and people that shouldn't have been allowed in by the Biden administration. Historically, the summer months have been a time when violent crime soar, as you know, but not under President Trump. Today, we're announcing the results of a sweeping law enforcement effort known as Operation Summer Heat. We were in many cities that people didn't know about. We kept it a little quiet, and it had a big impact, and you'll hear that in a second. But over the past few months, FBI offices in all 50 states made crushing violent crime a top enforcement priority. That's what they did, rounding up and arresting thousands of the most violent and dangerous criminals. And these are among the most dangerous and violent people in the world. They were allowed, in many cases, not in all cases, but in many cases, they were allowed in by a very foolish, actually stupid, open border policy. Just anybody could have come in. They emptied out their jails, their prisons, their mental institutions. They emptied them into our country. And the people behind me have done an incredible job, because if we didn't have that administration, it would have been so much easier. They allowed millions of people in this country that shouldn't have been allowed, including over 11,000 murderers, half of whom murdered more than one person. And many of them are gone now, or they're put in prison, because we don't want to have them come back. So we literally put them in our prison, which we don't want to do. But we bring them back to their countries. Working with state and local partners, the FBI arrested over 8,000 violent criminals during the course of this period. In major cities like in New Orleans, Nashville, we saw a 250% increase in arrests. And we really went after the bad ones. These include 725 individuals wanted for violent crimes against children and murderers. These arrests are in addition to the work of our historic federal task forces. That Make D.C. Safe Task Force has been unbelievable. I mean, the job they've done, it's incredible. And it's been so nice, because so many people, they're going out to dinner and they're having dinners. They didn't go out for 4 years. And now they're going out 3 times a week. Restaurants are opening. Restaurants are full. And usually that means a lot of good things. But restaurants that were closed are now opening up. And everybody's happy. It's nobody's ever seen anything like it, actually. And everybody feels safe. You can have a child walk right through the middle of Washington, D.C., and nothing's going to happen. We were losing more than one person a week in Washington. They're being killed on an average of over one a week. The Make D.C. Safe Task Force has been incredible. And the Make Memphis Safe Task Force is having very similar results. It's much earlier, but we've been there for a week and a half, but I'm hearing the results are pretty incredible, and you'll hear about that. They're mobilizing more than 20 federal agencies for the largest law enforcement operation targeting violent criminals in American history. As a result of these efforts, violent crime declined nearly 20% nationwide compared to the same period last year, and it was the safest and most peaceful summer in 2 decades. And honestly, we haven't really even gotten going yet. If we didn't have to fight all of these radical left governors, we could have had Chicago taken care of, as an example. They had, in a short period of time, 4,000 murders in Chicago, and we have to listen to this man stand up and say that we're bad people. And the people of Chicago are walking around with MAGA hats. You have women, beautiful black women, walking around with MAGA hats. Please let the president in, and we don't care how he does it. They're not interested in National Guard or Army, Navy, bring them in. Marines, bring in the Marines. They just want the crime to stop. And more so because of the success that we had in D.C. I think if we didn't have that success, nobody would even believe it. So I want to congratulate all of the incredible law enforcement professionals joining us today, especially Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's terrific, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is a fantastic legal talent. He really is. He's a great guy, too. And, of course, FBI Director Kash Patel. They have worked so hard on this and other things. Since the start of the administration, the FBI has arrested over 23,000 violent criminals, more than double the number arrested in the final year of the Biden disaster. The FBI has also destroyed or severely disrupted more than 170 organized criminal enterprises and gangs, 1,600 of the most violent gangs, and confiscated over 6,000 illegal firearms. And they've tracked down and arrested 4 fugitives on the most wanted list. 4 of the most wanted. Actually, 2 of them were the most wanted fugitives in the world. There's still much more work to be done, which is why the FBI continues to work alongside the Department of Justice, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of War to defend. And Pete Hegseth has been fantastic, by the way, on this too. On other things, but on this too. To defend law and order and combat violent crime, arrest illegal aliens, and make American cities the safest in the world. And when I campaigned, I talked about crime, but I never knew that we were going to get into it like we did. You know, I mean, I used to watch these cities with the murders. Chicago recently had one deal where they had 11 murders in one weekend, and they said, well, yeah, but it was a holiday weekend. They actually told me that was the reason. Like it was okay because it was a holiday. It was Labor Day. These people are the worst. They really have to, they better, I tell you what, the people in Chicago and the people in places like that can be fixed. At some point, it gets to where you can't fix it anymore. It's too far gone. And we have some cities like that. But these are great cities that can be fixed. I'm going to be strongly recommending, at the request of government officials, which is always nice, that you start looking at San Francisco. I think we can make San Francisco. There's one of our great cities 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now it's a mess. And we have great support in San Francisco, so I'd like to recommend that for inclusion, maybe in your next group. You'll get great support. Every American deserves to live in a community where they're not afraid of being mugged, murdered, robbed, raped, assaulted, or shot. And that's exactly what our administration is working to deliver. I didn't realize I was going to make this such a big factor in the administration. I didn't really campaign. I campaigned on crime, but I never thought we'd go into every city and take a really safe city that we've all been living with for years and make them safe. And now it's like a passion for me, and it's a passion for the people behind me. So I didn't get elected. I did get elected for crime, but I didn't get elected for what we're doing. This is many, many steps above it. I want to thank Stephen Miller, who's right back in the audience right there. I'd love to have him. I love watching him on television. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, but maybe not his truest feelings. That might be going a little bit too far. But Stephen, thank you for doing an unbelievable job. And the people of this country love you, I'll tell you, and they love what you say about crime and stopping crime. So now I'd like to ask Director Patel to say a few words, and then Pam and Todd also. And I just want to congratulate them. This is an amazing thing, and we're just at the start. We're going to go into other cities that we're not talking about purposely. We're getting ready to go in. And when they go in, like Cash as an example told me that people didn't even know. 5 months ago, they went into Chicago, and they started doing a lot of work in Chicago, and we brought the numbers down a little bit. And but that really was just preparatory work for what we're going to do with the surge. We're going to have a surge of strong, good people, patriots, and they're going to go in, they straighten it all out. So a lot of these cities we're already working on, but we don't do it with a big flavor. But in a little while, you're going to see some numbers that you're not going to believe. And I think you'll probably start with Memphis, because I'm hearing the numbers are much quicker than we even thought possible. But again, D.C. it speaks for itself. Chicago is going to be okay. We're going to save Chicago. And I told you, and I told them, a very respected man, the head of the Union Pacific, said, "Sir, save Chicago. It can be saved." And the way he said it, it was like, can you believe it? We're trying to save Chicago. But I understood exactly what he wants, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to save all of our cities, and we're going to make them essentially crime-free, like other countries have crime-free. If you go all over the world, you go to the world, you hear Afghanistan, and you hear all these different places. Our crime in certain cities is worse than anything they can even imagine, and we're not going to have that any longer. It's going to stop, and it stops right here. Cash, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. What I'd like to do is just highlight some of the outstanding work that the men and women of the FBI have been doing. And thanks to your brave leadership and the mandate you were given by the American people to not only defend the homeland but crush violent crime, you tasked us with our great partners at the Department of Justice and the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General to start making arrests and bring prosecutions and safeguard our cities. And you said it, this is just the beginning. In just 7 months, I hope the media takes a look at every one of these charts, because these are the best numbers for fighting crime in U.S. history, and it's only 7 months in. And to do that, our vehicle to do it of choice was Operation Summer Heat, which the FBI architected to go after violent criminals. And in just a 3-month span, you had 8,700 arrests of violent criminals. You had 2,200 firearms seized off the streets permanently to safeguard our communities. You had 421 kilograms of fentanyl seized. Just to put that in perspective, that's enough to kill 55 million Americans alone. You had 45,000 kilograms of cocaine seized, and thanks to our Department of Justice partners, you had 2,100 indictments in 3 months from June to September alone. Mr. President, that in and of itself would be historic for a 4-year presidency. You did that in 7 months because you let good cops be cops, and you partnered us with the right people, the Department of Justice, to put the handcuffs on and bring them to court and put them in prison. And if that weren't enough, when you look at the year, for the entire 7-month period that we're talking about here, if you look at the past 4 years of the Biden administration, 16,000, 17,000, 15,000, 15,000. That's the number of arrests year over year of violent felons in this country for the Biden administration. Mr. President, in 7 months, you have 28,600 arrests of violent felons in just 7 months alone because of your leadership and the dedication of the men and women at the FBI who want to go out there and do the job they were prevented from doing because that department used to be weaponized and politicized. And this is what happens when you take out the fangs of weaponization. This number is historic by every metric. 28,000 people have been arrested, violent felons alone. And then when you go over there and look at some of these charts, if you don't mind, I'll just hop over here. Look at the metrics for not just violent crime, but the homeland. Mr. President, during your administration, the FBI has found and located 5,400 children. That is a 30% increase year to date over the last administration. Violent crimes against children arrests alone are up 10%. Gang arrests are up 210% in the last 7 months alone. And transnational organized crime, which Stephen Miller has been a great partner in, is up over 12% alone. These numbers are historic just as a snapshot. But just so people don't think we're focusing on violent crime alone, the national security mission, Mr. President, under your leadership has never been stronger. We have gone after espionage activities against our main counterparts in China, Russia, and Iran. In China alone, we've had over a 50% increase in espionage arrests alone in prosecution. In Iran, we have had a 50% increase, again, in espionage cases. And in Russia, we've had a 33% increase in espionage cases alone. When it comes to counterterrorism, year to date, we have 125 arrests this year versus 100 last year, year to date alone. And when it comes to the cyber criminal activities, which are some of the largest enterprises plaguing everyday Americans, we at the FBI have put out a mission to go after cyber criminals like never before. Last year, they had in total 191. This year, you already have 252 arrests. 52 arrests of violent cyber criminals who are stealing from senior citizens, who are violating our children's rights and freedoms, and who are violating everyday Americans. These programs are record. And two of the things I'll finish with that I'm most proud of, Mr. President, this FBI. Fentanyl. As you know, it's a scourge that is killing our youth, 100,000 plus a year. To date, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl. That's enough lethal doses to kill 127 million Americans alone. To date. And if that weren't enough, Mr. President, you said we have to go after the worst of the worst. And you empowered our Department of Justice, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and the Deputy Director at the FBI led the charge, not just on summer heat, but he also led the charge to the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. These people have been on the run for years. And in 7 months, you captured not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 of the FBI's most top 10 fugitives. 4. And just to put that in perspective, Mr. President, the Biden administration captured 4 in all of 4 years. You're on 7, and we're going to get to 10. We're going to get to 10 of 10. This includes a lady who murdered her 6-year-old handicapped child and fled to India. We got her in 2 months. This includes a narco trafficker. This includes a sex trafficker. This includes another first-degree murderer and gangbang. These people were on the run because of the prior administration's reckless policies that destroyed our communities. And you came in and with a mandate said, go after the worst of the worst. This is just the beginning. This is what happens when you let good cops be good cops at the FBI. Mr. President, I just want to thank you for your incredible leadership, our great partnership with prosecutors who know how to bring cases and make sure these arrests stick. And that's what the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General have led the charge across this country. Because arrests without prosecutions are meaningless. We are deterring criminals from doing this activity. We are preventing criminals from coming into America, and we are absolutely crushing violent crime like never before and defending this homeland, sir. And not to mention, I almost forgot this one. It took you, sir, 2 weeks to get the Abbey Gate bomber. Joe Biden had 4 years to look for him. You got him in 2 weeks, thanks to the interagency effort by the FBI and the CIA, went to Pakistan, and now 13 brave warriors who were sentenced to murder because of disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. They have justice, their families have a peace of mind, and we're going to continue to find the others, Mr. President. On behalf of the FBI, sir, I just want to thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace. Great job. Very good. Very impressive. Pam, would you like to say something, please?
President Trump, the men and women of law enforcement say two things to me repeatedly. First, you have taken the handcuffs off them and let them do their jobs, and you let cops be cops. That's why all this is happening. The director, the deputy director are working around the clock. All of these great men and women in the FBI, they have families at home, and they are working during a government shutdown right now. Many of them have small children. Many of them, I was talking to an agent this morning, many of them have babies at home, and they are working around the clock to not only keep our country, but our world safe. And that's what Operation Summer Heat did. Thank you, Director, and to the Deputy Director for everything you did on behalf of the Department of Justice, and you're going to continue to keep doing. And they set the stage for what we're doing in Memphis. You're going to hear a lot more about that, our joint task force next week, but they set the stage for Memphis. And last night alone in Memphis, there were almost 70 arrests. There were 12 guns seized, and there was a 70-year-old man arrested as a result of our operation in Memphis who raped a child under the age of 3. That one case makes everything we're doing worthwhile. So thank you all for being here on behalf of both of us. Thank you, President Trump.
Thank you. Todd, you want to say something?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So this is a great day, and I think there's stats that the director talked about which are important, but I want to give 2 examples of what Summer Heat has done that actually will apply hopefully to everybody in this room. The first is for over 4 years during the last administration, there was a hotel in a town, the middle of a town in Alaska, that was being run as a drug den. There were over 1,000 calls to 911 over 4.5 year period. There were multiple violent crimes, drug dealers, overdoses, and murders at this one hotel, ruining a community. Summer Heat went in there. It's not only arrested all the participants that were controlling the hotel, but seized the hotel. And so that's one example of what Summer Heat means to everyday Americans that just want to live in peace. The second example is a large narcotics trafficking group that was selling fentanyl in the state of Washington. They were shipping fentanyl and using commercial aircraft